Seth Rollins went to a hospital tonight. Not as a patient. Not to visit someone. Not for any reason that a normal human being with any shred of decency or restraint would enter a medical facility. Seth Rollins took his army, his loyal, organized, utterly merciless collection of soldiers who execute his vision without question and without hesitation, and he walked into a hospital where Brock Lesnar was recovering, and he finished what he started. He finished it completely. He finished it permanently. He finished it in a location so far outside the boundaries of what professional wrestling conflict is supposed to look like that the entire WWE universe is sitting in stunned, horrified, furious silence right now, trying to process the reality of what Seth Rollins just did. And Paul Heyman, the wise man, the most brilliant managerial mind professional wrestling has ever produced. The man who has spent decades positioning himself beside the most powerful forces in this business, Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and surviving every storm, every power shift, every dangerous situation through the combination of his extraordinary intelligence and his extraordinary instinct for self-preservation. Paul Heyman has outlasted enemies that would have destroyed lesser men. Paul Heyman has navigated political landscapes so treacherous that most people would not have survived the first turn. Paul Heyman has always found a way. Until tonight. Seth Rollins and his army walked into that hospital and Paul Heyman is gone. Not sidelined. Not injured and expected to return. Gone. And the way it happened, the specific, deliberate, utterly cold manner in which Seth Rollins orchestrated the finishing of Paul Heyman while Brock Lesnar lay unable to protect the one man who has always stood closest to him, is the darkest, most chilling, most genuinely disturbing thing Seth Rollins has ever done in a career already filled with moments that push the boundaries of what WWE is supposed to be. I am not going to sugarcoat what happened tonight. I am not going to frame this in comfortable wrestling language that softens the edges of something this severe. Seth Rollins crossed a line tonight that exists well beyond professional wrestling competition. He took his war out of the arena, out of the building, out of the sanctioned environment where these conflicts are supposed to live, and he brought it to a hospital room where a recovering man and his vulnerable advocate had every reasonable expectation of safety. And he destroyed both of them. Ring Rumble 1 is going to give you the most complete, most honest, most thoroughly devastating breakdown of what Seth Rollins did tonight, why he did it, what it means for Brock Lesnar's future, and what the permanent absence of Paul Heyman means for the WWE landscape going forward. Do not go anywhere. This is the most important and most disturbing breakdown this channel has ever delivered, and every single word of it matters. Before we go one step further, stop right now and handle something important before this story gets any deeper. If Ring Rumble 1 is completely new to you tonight, let me tell you exactly what you just found. This is not a channel that describes events and calls it content. This is not a page that softens hard truths to protect anyone's feelings or anyone's reputation. Ring Rumble 1 is where wrestling fans who need real honesty, real psychological depth, and real unfiltered analysis come when something as dark and as consequential as Seth Rollins finishing Paul Heyman in a hospital after Raw happens, and they need someone to sit with that reality and tear every layer of it apart without flinching. Hit that subscribe button right now. One click, completely free, and it locks you permanently into the most passionate, most honest, most thoroughly invested wrestling analysis community on all of YouTube. Story in professional wrestling tonight, and Ring Rumble 1 is the place that conversation belongs. Ready? Here we go. Let's start with the logistics of what Seth Rollins actually did tonight, because the mechanics of this attack, the planning required, the coordination involved, and the deliberate choice of location, reveal something about Seth Rollins' current state of mind that is more alarming than anything he has previously shown us. Seth Rollins did not attack Brock Lesnar in a parking lot. He did not ambush him at an airport or outside an arena or in any of the locations that WWE conflict has historically spilled into when rivalries reach their most intense and most personal points. He took his army to a hospital. A functioning medical facility where staff, patients, and people in genuinely vulnerable physical states exist under the reasonable assumption that they are protected from exactly the kind of organized violence that Seth Rollins brought through those doors tonight. The planning that required is staggering. You do not walk an army into a hospital without knowing which hospital. Without knowing which room. Without knowing the layout, the security, the timing, and the specific window of vulnerability that would allow you to get to your targets before any adequate response could be organized. Seth Rollins had all of that information. He had it in advance. He used it with the precision of someone who has been thinking about this specific moment for a long time and who left absolutely nothing to chance in its execution. This was not a spontaneous escalation of an existing rivalry. This was a military operation. Planned, resourced, executed. And the target was not just Brock Lesnar, a man whose legendary physical resilience and terrifying capabilities make him a dangerous target under any circumstances. The target was also Paul Heyman. And targeting Paul Heyman specifically, in a hospital, while Brock Lesnar was in a compromised physical state and unable to fulfill the role of protector that has defined their relationship for years, tells you that Seth Rollins understands the Lesnar and Heyman dynamic on a level that goes beyond surface observation and reaches into the intimate mechanics of how that partnership actually functions. You hurt Brock Lesnar by hurting Paul Heyman. Seth Rollins knew that, and he acted on it. Now we address the part of tonight's story that hits the hardest and carries the most profound long-term implications for the WWE landscape. Paul Heyman is gone. And I need every single person watching this video to fully understand what that absence means, because Paul Heyman is not a manager in the conventional sense and his departure from this company is not a personnel change in the conventional sense. Paul Heyman is an institution. He is a mind, a singular, extraordinary, irreplaceable wrestling mind that has shaped the direction of this business at every level it has operated on for decades. As a promoter, he built ECW into a cultural revolution that changed professional wrestling permanently. As a manager, he elevated every talent he worked with to levels they could not have reached without his specific combination of intellectual firepower, microphone genius, and strategic positioning. Paul Heyman did was not a learnable skill, it was a gift. And Seth Rollins took that gift out of WWE tonight. He walked into a hospital room and he finished Paul Heyman, and the wise man is gone. The voice that has accompanied some of the most significant moments in WWE's recent history will not be heard again. The mind that has shaped countless championship reigns and storyline directions and performer trajectories has been removed from the equation by a man who understood that eliminating Paul Heyman was not just a tactical move in a rivalry, it was a statement about the kind of WWE that Seth Rollins intends to create. One where brilliance does not protect you. One where intelligence is not enough. One where Seth Rollins and his army reach wherever they need to reach to remove whatever they need to remove. The WWE without Paul Heyman is a different place. And it is a worse place. And Seth Rollins made it that way deliberately and without remorse. Let's talk about Brock Lesnar specifically, because the image of the most physically dominant superstar in WWE history lying in a hospital bed while Seth Rollins' army finishes Paul Heyman around him is one of the most jarring and most psychologically significant images this company has ever produced. Brock Lesnar being vulnerable is not something the wrestling world has extensive experience processing. His entire identity, as a performer, as a character, as a physical presence that occupies a category beyond what other superstars can claim, is built on the premise of invulnerability. He is the beast incarnate. He is the one force in professional wrestling that operates above the normal rules of physical consequence. When Brock Lesnar hits you, you feel it differently than you feel anyone else's offense. When Brock Lesnar is in a building, the entire atmosphere of that building changes because everyone in it knows on a primal level that a genuinely dangerous entity is present. Brock Lesnar in a hospital room is the inversion of everything his character represents. It is the beast stripped of his invulnerability. The beast in a condition where he cannot protect himself or the people around him. And Seth Rollins chose that specific condition to launch his most devastating attack because Seth Rollins is smart enough to know that you do not get opportunities to damage Brock Lesnar when Brock Lesnar is healthy and functional and ready for war. But here is what Seth Rollins needs to understand, and what his army needs to understand, about attacking Brock Lesnar in a hospital. You can damage the beast in a hospital. You can hurt him there. You can finish Paul Heyman there and send a message there and feel the satisfaction of a plan executed precisely as intended. But you cannot extinguish Brock Lesnar. You cannot take away the specific kind of motivated, personal, all-consuming rage that a man like Brock Lesnar generates when someone does something as violating and as deeply personal as attacking him in a hospital and finishing his closest associate while he lay unable to respond. The Brock Lesnar that recovers from tonight is going to be something that Seth Rollins has never faced before. Not the competitive Brock who shows up to perform on a pay-per-view card. The personal Brock. The one driven not by competitive motivation but by the need to make someone pay for something unforgivable. Rollins operating as the architect of an organized collective that executes his vision with military precision both inside and outside WWE's sanctioned competitive environment, is a categorically different and categorically more threatening version of the visionary that this company has ever had to manage. Tonight proved that Seth Rollins' army is willing to go anywhere. A hospital. After Raw. Outside every boundary that we's authority structures are designed to police and enforce. If Seth Rollins' army will go to a hospital tonight, where will they go tomorrow? What location is off limits? What target is protected? What line exists that Seth Rollins has not already demonstrated he is willing to cross in pursuit of whatever vision he is building toward? WWE's authority figures woke up this morning managing a rivalry between Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar that existed within the parameters of professional wrestling competition. They are going to bed tonight managing an entirely different situation, a situation where one of their superstars has demonstrated that he operates without geographical or institutional limits and that the people around him are sufficiently loyal and sufficiently organized to execute that limitless approach on his behalf. That is not a rivalry. That is a siege. And WWE does not currently have the tools to end it. I have given you everything. The hospital attack mechanics, the devastating loss of Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar's vulnerability and the monster it will create, and the full scope of Seth Rollins' army is a threat to WWE's entire structure. Now this comment section needs to explode because what Seth Rollins did tonight demands the loudest possible response from this community. Tell me right now, how do you feel about Paul Heyman being gone from WWE? Does his absence leave a hole in this company that simply cannot be filled? And what does Brock Lesnar look like when he recovers from tonight? How long before the Beast comes back and how catastrophic is the revenge going to be when he does? And most importantly, is there anyone in WWE right now capable of stopping Seth Rollins and his army before they completely dismantle everything this company has built? Drop everything in the comments below. Your grief over Paul Heyman. Your prediction for Brock Lesnar's return. Your theory on who steps up to stop Seth Rollins. Your absolute rage at what happened in that hospital tonight. Put it all there right now because this community is the best wrestling conversation on YouTube and your voice is what makes Ring Rumble 1 the channel it is. And if you know someone who missed this, someone who does not know yet that Seth Rollins took his army to a hospital and finished Paul Heyman while Brock Lesnar recovered, send them this video immediately. Tag them in the comments. Ring Rumble 1 just gave them the most complete, most honest, most emotionally thorough breakdown of the darkest night in recent WWE history. 3 things before you leave, every single time without exception. Like this video right now. This second. One tap tells YouTube this content matters and deserves to reach every wrestling fan on this platform tonight. Do not wait. Hit it now. Share this video everywhere. Every platform. Every group chat. Every wrestling community you are part of. Seth Rollins attacking Brock Lesnar in a hospital and finishing Paul Heyman is the most shocking, most disturbing story in WWE history, and Ring Rumble 1 delivered the deepest, most complete, most honest breakdown of it available anywhere online. Share it everywhere. Put your people onto this channel. Subscribe and turn that notification bell to all right now if you are not already locked into this community. Because Seth Rollins and his army are not finished and Brock Lesnar's recovery and return is going to produce moments that will define this era of WWE permanently. Ring Rumble 1 will be here for every single one, faster, deeper and more real than any other wrestling channel on this platform. Paul Heyman is gone. Brock Lesnar is in a hospital. Seth Rollins did this. And WWE will never be the same again. This is Ring Rumble 1. And we are only just beginning. See you in the next one. Asterisk.